Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another round of Chitter Chatter. You might be thinking, why do I have these sparkling glitters all around? Well, that is because today we are going to chit chat with the author of this book, Lucy. Yes, Lucy and the Rise of Parabola. This is written by two authors, Anandajit Goswami and Debashish Chakravarti. And one of the authors, that is Anandajit Goswami, is going to chit chat with me. Since it's all about sci-fi, I thought let's add some glitter here. So let's send a request to him. He's right here, and let's get started with our chit chat. And why my request, you have to tell me what books are you all reading lately in this lockdown 2 phase. How are you all enjoying your reading time that you all are finally getting in midst of everything that is going around? Hello, author Tejaswi Priyadarshi. Hey, Zion. Akshay Mehta, Jai Mata Di. Unupo, hello, everyone. And thank you for joining for Chitter Chatter. Thank you. Hey, Bianca, hi. And always sending in your requests and the love that you all keep pouring in. Also, when you all tell me to read a particular book, I do try to read them and will get back on my book blogs that some of you have asked me for. And while we wait for the request, I hope the net is working. I hope the net supports us. Tell me, how many of you all have read a sci-fi book lately, and what are the books that you all like? You know, this book is all about sustainable sci-fi, and he's here. We waved him, he joined in, we've sent in a request, but there's some issue. What is the issue? Hey guys, 1 minute, I'm sending another request. Professor Anand, I've sent you another request. I hope you get it this time while we're waiting for him to join in. And yes, he's right here. Is there a net issue? We can't see you. You're kind of blurred. And now we can see the white wall. And now we can see you. Hey, writer Yuvraj, Dada Rocking, hello. Hello, Mr. Anand, can you see us? Because now we can see you, but we can't hear you.
I can see you all. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. So welcome for Chitter Chatter, and thank you for giving us your time, and thank you for writing this lovely book. Is there something you want to tell your audience before we start the chit chat all about this book?
No, I think if I tell a lot about the book, the mystery and the thriller will be revealed. So the only request is that it has taken a lot of time to read and write this book, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. It has all elements of thriller, mystery, science fiction, humanism, and lots of fantasy, dark fantasy.
That is true. That I have to agree with him. I've been reading this book, and this is the first time I'm reading a book on sustainable sci fiction thriller. Like, this is my first time this genre. And I'm so hooked on to it about knowing about the parallel universe and the way, you take us in and out and everything. And like you said, I cannot say much because I'll be giving in spoilers unknowingly in excitement. So I'm going to limit myself there. But tell me, you and another friend of yours, another author, you all both have written this book together. Debashish Chakravarti and you have written it together. How's it when two of you got together and wrote this book? Like, how did you all go about? What was it like?
So it has not been very difficult because Devashish, as I call him, he has been my mentor, and we got our education from the same center in JNU. And so we know each other from 2002, and this is 2021. And our academic interests and reading interests, movie interests, music interests, they pretty much match. And he has been my constant mentor. So we watch similar sort of films, we read similar sort of books, and it's very spontaneous. And actually, we never realize that we are writing a book together because it just happens naturally. But the only thing is that, yeah, we follow also a rigorous process of back and forth. So I generally I am more spontaneous when it comes to writing, So I follow a spontaneous style of writing. Then Debashish comes with his methods. Then we decide a joint method, and then a lot of back and forth, and then it shapes up. So it's fun working with him.
So while you had fun writing Lucy and we are having fun reading Lucy, this is a third book. And this is a particular genre which is a little more difficult, I would say, than a normal thriller because you're literally creating another world and which you have to make us believe. So, how did you begin to write your first book, which was again on lines of sustainable science fiction?
So the first book, Lucy and the Train, Tryst with Sustainability, actually way back in 2008-9, I had started thinking about, so because of my 17, 18 years of career in policy analysis, sustainability science, climate modeling, so there were many things which I was not able to talk about, say in my journal papers or in my classes. But there was a sense of restlessness, claustrophobia, and tension within me. And so the first book, I think, it was a spontaneous outcome of 19 years of struggle with my own self. And
Okay.
in 2008, I started to write Lucy and the Train, Tryst with Sustainability. I never saw it as a book. All the Lucy books, I see it more as it's a journey. As you have realized, it's a philosophical journey. Anyone who reads the book can relate the book with her or his own journey of life. That's the way Lucy is being written. So I started the process of, I say, Lucy is my psychological counselor. So I met her in 2008-9, and finally I finished documenting it. I don't know how many drafts I had written, and finally a short 84-page short draft after many big drafts by 2012-13. Then it was a long struggle because many publishers told that it is too weird as a book. It is too imaginative. It is too fictitious. It doesn't have a head or tail. We don't know what this is talking about. But I was not demotivated because my dad kept on inspiring me. My late dad, who could not see this success today. So I owe this book to him. He kept on telling me, you should write, you should sing, you should perform. Just even if there's one person whose life you can change, even if there's only one person whose life in the night, in the day, or whenever the person is in a pensive mood can change by reading your work. So write for that person. Don't think of publication. Someday someone will publish it. And luckily
Wow.
I was lucky also that Anjuna Basu, a very famous Paro Anand and Anjuna Basu, they are very famous children book writers of India, very well known. Anjuna Basu reviewed the Lucy and the Train manuscript. It was an independent manuscript. She told the publisher that this book should be published. She did not know my name. The manuscript it was a blind manuscript which was sent by Terry Press to Anjunadi, and there was no name written
Oh,
in the manuscript.
okay.
No one knew who has written this. He read the book and he said that whoever has written this, but this book should be published. So after many knockovers and knockdowns, I got a surprising call in 2015 by the publisher when I had thought that this Lucy will become more like my diary instead of seeing the light of the day. So the publisher told me that, look, a very well-known writer is saying that this should be published as a children's science fiction. So we should. And I owe it to Terry Press. They put their money on that manuscript. And I still remember we saved cost because it was completely a new concept. So all the sketches, everything I used to design, I will sit with the designer. I will work on how many pages the drafts could be reduced so that the cost is less. But we never compromised on the quality. And I also would like to take the name of another person, late Mr. Pravish Sengupta. I think he was another person. He was the head of the unit at that point of time, and my earlier boss also, the earlier DG of TERI, Dr. Pachori was. Both of them said that this book needs to come out. So I had almost given up that no, this book will never see the light of the day. And suddenly in 2015, I get a call one day, and the book was written, and I actually didn't have to do a lot of work because it took a lot of time to write it. So there were 4 or 5 rounds of edit, and then the book came out. But there was a lot of tension because for the first 7 or 8 months, the book was not picking up at all. And
Yeah, it's a very different kind of a book. And, for someone to get like, to just pick it up, it does take a little while. But I can assure, in spite of this not being my genre, it is something that actually you can relate to. And you suddenly feel like, oh my God, there's so much going on which you actually not given it a thought about.
yeah, yeah. So what did you ask? I just
So,
missed
like
your last
you
thing.
said that, it is a very different kind of a book, like from the very first one. And that's why first for a few months, the first one that you wrote didn't do well.
Yeah. Because even the first one also, it took almost more than a year, 1.5, 2 years to get an audience. I remember many of the promotions I will go on, there were only 1 people or 2 people who will come, who will say the book is fantastic. So I will get a lot of, this is very good book, but no, when the launch will happen, only 1 or 2 people will come. But as I said, that Lucy has been my psychological counselor. I cannot go without Lucy. Because Lucy is not a character for me. Lucy is love, understanding, creativity, and youth for me. And so I'm glad that people are finally liking after the 3rd book has come out. And then now there is an interest for people to read also Lucy and the Train, Lucy Meets Artificial Intelligence. Though I must appreciate that, I got many critical support and feedback. The Indian Literary Book Review Journal, which is one of the best journals of India, showcased Lucy as one of the best children's science fiction work way back in 2016 and 17. Then there were some critical reviews by News Now and Hindu, little here and there. But people are gradually now picking up. So I'm glad and I'm grateful to everyone.
So, Tosin's question right now that Lucy and the Rise of Parabola is the 3rd novel, and though you've written about Lucy, your psychological counselor, since the first book, Lucy and the Train, is it important that if somebody's not read the Train and the second one, they can still pick up the 3rd one and start reading from here and then go backwards?
Well, Debashish and I, we were always aware. We constantly thought about this. So what we have done, as you must have also noticed, we have given a prologue which summarizes the first 2. Essentially, just a brief summary visually of, say, a web series kind of a thing. In the web series also, when we see what has happened earlier, people see, and then someone picks up. So it's best that it will be great if people read all 3. But standalone also, this book has its own relevance, because all the Lucy books, as I was saying, is essentially a very self-reflective journey. So if you pick up 3rd or 2nd, it is not only a plot which is going, it is also, I have tried to bring the individualization of the reader in the plot itself. So there is a lot of room for every reader to imagine in their own way. In every single book of Lucy. That's a conscious attempt that I started with, and I'm still trying with Debashish Da also now as a co-traveler.
How was it working with the book baker Suhail Mathur?
Brilliant. Suhail Bhai, how can I not acknowledge him? I mean, also the Pink Gender Extended. So, frankly speaking, Suhail Bhai the other day gave a very interesting anecdote, and this is to acknowledge him. he gave an interesting idea that both the books that we have worked together, the cover page is pink in color. The first one is Pink Gender Extended. Pink Gender Extended also critically has done pretty well. That's also a crime thriller that I had written and which
Okay.
has done pretty well. It is also a very psychological crime thriller with many multiple interpretations of 4 parallel stories in a police station.
Oh, wow.
So that book also was very close to my heart. So that's also Suhail Bhai showed a faith in that manuscript. And Lucy 3 also, he believed in the manuscript. And Loxley Hall publication. But Book Bakers was fun. Book Bakers, amazing, amazing. And
So
as you can see,
association.
our colors are going with the association from pink, different shades of pink in the cover.
Like he said, Pink Gender Extended.
Yeah, exactly.
And being known as one of the best known authors of Loxley Hall Publishing, what was the experience with them?
Well, I feel very shy to call myself bestseller or a best-selling author because I have said that in one of the interview. The day I think I have written my best line, I will leave that day writing. I still think that I have not yet found out a best line, and that's what
Okay.
I'm seeking for. So I write because I have not yet found a good line. The day I think that I have found the best line, so first of all, I feel very shy. I feel humbled, overwhelmed. So don't call me as a best-selling author. I'm just an expressionist. But Loxley Hall was amazing. I was so deeply impressed by their detailing, by their eye for a detail on each and every aspect of the book because sometimes I can get very finicky. I can get onto the nerves of people because I want every time to make things perfect, which is a tendency that I need to control because of too much of passion. Sometimes I say, okay, this line, what is the status, what is happening? So I don't think sometimes I can become a little irritating, but it is just for me. It is a baby, so I get too
Okay.
conscious. My motherhood just comes out of the way. But Loxley Hall was amazing, amazing, very nice.
To study sustainable science and all of this, you somewhere related to sustainable living at some point in your life. So, where did your journey for sustainability start in your life?
Can I tell you a very simple anecdote how sustainability started in my life? I was born and brought up in a joint family where we didn't even have a pump. So every day I had to take a bath in a borewell pump. So I had to use manually my hand and only use half bucket of water and take a bath and not
Okay.
pump more because there were 29 others who will also use that borewell. Okay. So and the same practice has stayed with me even now. Today, even now I live very simply. I live in a very simple way, in a very simple place. I don't have any lavish aspects in my life. Even now, I take a half bucket of water and take only one mug to take a bath. Many people say that I don't take bath. I am dirty, but no, that's not the fact. Is that sustainability? It starts from the everyday of your life. You just have to feel for others. It's just how you push out of your comfort zone and you feel for others. It's if I get one chocolate, when I'm buying a chocolate, if I see a pet, I make friends with the pet. I get a tiger biscuit and give them. So you don't need to read a lot to be a practitioner of sustainability. You can just do it. It's a very the most simple things of life are the most extraordinary aspects. And I think all of us have a sustainable person in the person. It's just that we make life too complicated and we forget things. So for me, I will say the first day I took a bath on taking a water out of the borewell, thinking of the 29 other members of my joint family, I started understanding.
Even your book is all about understanding the other people. The whole idea is about sustainability, how to save what others are damaging, how the earth is getting damaged, and it's all about other people, which not many people realize when they're talking about sustainability, that they're talking about saving everyone. It's not like, one person as own. Like today in COVID, everyone is saying don't go out because you're risking even others who are out. So, what would you like to tell people who want to, like, you just said that living simply is what sustainability is. So, there are people out there who have these huge agendas when they think of sustainability. And, just thinking, they don't start it. So, they have it somewhere, but they don't take the courage to start. So, how can one start with smaller steps to believe in sustainability and practice sustainability to save our Mother Earth?
Very simple. As I said, that I do it every day. When I see in my colony, when I see people are putting on pumps and the water is flowing, I call the RWA person. I say that it is paining me. I feel deep. I feel pain. See, you have to feel pain. If you don't feel pain, you cannot understand sustainability. You only understand a dream, which is sustainability, when you have a pain. And once you feel the pain, you understand sustainability. So the thing that we don't have as a humanity right now is understanding. We are judgmental. We judge everyone. We don't understand anything. The first thing that knowledge, or the so-called knowledge, or the books have done to us is not a spiritual understanding of people. Too much of logical rationality has bounded us in knowing everything, in valuing everything, but without appreciating or understanding nothing. And that's dangerous. So if you have to live a sustainable lifestyle, stop judging everyone, including yourself.
True.
Stop. That's the first step. Stop judging yourself first. Stop judging everyone around you. Stop judging nature around you. Stop judging food around you. Think and understand what is happening. And if you understand, I think that's 50% of the first step is done. Because action will come once understanding happens. And I don't mean only by understanding. Okay, understanding has also many layers. Okay, it's something like this. Let's say this way. Okay, say I was putting the gas on or the light on for the first 6 years of my life. One day when I was at class 2 or 3, my mom one day scolded me a lot. I didn't understand what is this importance of putting off the light. Then suddenly we used to have this West Bengal state electricity connection, not a privatized electricity connection. I realized one day there were 4 hours of load shedding, and for a long time during the entire summer month, I had to study using kerosene lamps. I understood why electricity is important. Now the point is, to understand sustainability, do we also need to push ourselves always into this masochistic self-paining exercise? Or without putting ourselves to a painful exercise, without undergoing a pain, also we can understand.
True.
That is the challenge right now, because we are very rational as a consumerist society. Rationality will not allow you to cross the lips and bound, because your mind will always create a boundary. That's what mind does.
Absolutely.
Heart will tell you to push the boundaries. So how you create that harmony where you don't self-destruct yourself? So when you push towards sustainability, you also have to invite a chaos within you. So how you invite the chaos, but also stay balanced. So that's the delicate balance that we have to go through. And that can only happen when you understand.
Yeah,
let's
understanding is very important.
So let's ask a question. Can we understand our own body? if we would have understood our own body, then we would have understood that what we need to eat. Then we would have understood what we should not eat, or we should not. Most of the times I don't eat, I fast a lot, but that's also not good. I'm not praising that, but I'm saying that, do we need to overconsume? Do we need to overconsume and then see the oxymoron of the time? First you overconsume, then you become a health fanatic, then you go on to diet structure, then you go on to the entire public popular culture of your body being slim and fit. So I don't understand this entire jigsaw puzzle of the civilization. That first you create a mess, then you create a business to push towards the mess, and then you create a popular media culture that you should not do that mess.
That's absolutely correct. We start somewhere and then we go back to there. So might as well just understand and be there.
So we as a civilization, we are not following a path. We are always in a jalebi ka circle, and that circle is I call it as a dark energy and as a dark hole. There's no end. There's no end. Now, even if we would have understood the science properly, we know that dark hole also has a wormhole. So with that wormhole, you actually can go to another galaxy. So you better find out a wormhole if you are in a dark hole, so that you can see a better universe.
Wow. On that note, I would request all the viewers that, this is such a nice, enlightening thought. And if they want to share it with anybody else, our chat is going to be on Spotify and on our IGTV later. So they can always tag people so that they can read it, hear it. And if you all haven't got Lucy till now to read, then you must get her. Order it online and tell us how the book is. You can DM him, you can DM me, and you can spread the word about Lucy, The Rise of Parabola. And before we leave our chitter chatter for today, one quote that you would want to share with all your viewers. One quote by you that you would like to share with your viewers, a quote that you strongly believe.
One quote is that we can say that someone is commenting. So when I say dark hole, I'm saying that through a black hole, you can find out a wormhole to go to another galaxy. So that's the concept I'm trying to clear out. So I'm just making myself clear if there's any confusion in understanding. So the one quote that I would like to say is that light is infectious.
That is true. Light is infectious, and may a lot of people get the light and understand the dark hole and the wormhole concept that you've tried to inspire here to our viewers. And thank you, Professor, for being on this chitter chatter, and best wishes for Lucy and many more Lucy novels that are going to come ahead. And thank you for writing such brilliant novels where you are promoting sustainability, which is the need of the hour today. And the sooner we realize, the sooner we all will save our Mother Earth.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.